Techie Chan is back. State Representative Techie Chan of Quincy joining us for a Techie Talk post-August Moon Festival, Techie.
Hey, good morning, Joe. On a cloudy, maybe rainy day on today's Wednesday, the 19th in August, and vast difference. No, it's Tuesday. I'm sorry, Tuesday, August 19th. And a vast difference what 2 days make when the humidity was extremely high and the sun was bearing down hard. Actually, another wonderful festival. If it wasn't broiling temperatures, I would be disappointed, I suspect.
It seems to be the trend now. That's why the Techie Chan fans were very popular this year.
Yes, when the weather's hot, my table becomes quite popular. I'm one of the few folks that actually will stand in the sun with my material, personally handing stuff out. And, until I run out of material, the rule is very simple. Until when I'm out of stuff, I go home. And we passed out about 2,800 plus fans. I gave away 1,000 jar openers. So jar openers are very popular. And probably over 300 pocket magnifiers. Obviously certain demographics find those materials useful. And, if people are looking for something, I'm sure I'm happy to accommodate and put something in the mail for you if you need one of them. It's not like I don't have enough campaign materials, as you all can guess. Just decades and decades. I think I calculated something like 30,000 fans I've given away at the August Moon Festival at this point.
Wow, that's a lot of cool people.
Well, I could. It shows how long I've been around. I have been going to the festival since 1995. The first one I attended as attendee, and then started doing volunteer work, and then started putting together festivals in 1996 going forward. So, I I chaired 12 of them. I ran personally, ran about 10, operationally. And then we obviously, the ones I missed a small number. I missed one because of my grandma's birthday. I missed one because it was moving September and it was a whole logistical problem in my life. And then obviously COVID held up a couple of festivals. But no, I've attended pretty much almost all of them in my adult life.
Yeah, it was the 38th annual this year. It actually predates Quincy Asian Resources.
Yes, a little bit of history lesson. This festival started at the Walls Lutheran Church in its parking lot. Then subsequently it was taken over by Impact Quincy, which was an entity that was part of Bay State Community Services. It was a kind of a semi-entity. Doesn't exist anymore. Then I picked up when I ran a little civic group called the Quincy Asian American Association. That was just a civic organization. And then once Quincy Asian Resources came into formation, I migrated the festival to Quincy Asian Resources. And to be perfectly honest with everybody, it's a revenue generator for a nascent agency. We had to make it profitable because we had limited grant funds and we didn't have a donor base and we didn't have any actually money generating ability yet. So the August Moon Festival became very crucial on the early days on revenue generation to get it started. And while it is an important part of the community, and as I think everyone told me, the table costs have gone up. Running a festival is very expensive these days, especially with inflation. And obviously, still needs to make some kind of profit because you have negative revenues. That's clearly not good. And it's a bigger event than Lunar New Year, and it's a bigger event than the annual dinner. So the logistics are very huge. This is a far cry from the parking lots of Lutheran. The church, and as well as far cries from North Quincy High School parking lot, or me doing it on Billings Road. I mean, you have bouncy houses, you have food trucks, you have a lot more vendors, you have a food day performances. It's very different than it was when I first started.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Yeah, estimates of like 15,000 people, I think. So it's a regional event now. It's not just a city event anymore.
Oh, it's easily the largest August Moon Festival in New England, without a doubt in my mind. I mean, it'll crack 25,000 people, depending on the year, depending on the weather, depending what else is going on. Unfortunately, Friends of Walsen Beach was also coinciding that day, or fortunate, unfortunate, depending how you want to talk about it. But I mean, it's a great event they put out there as well. I'm sorry I missed them at the Friends of Walsen Beach. But again, it's Quincy. We have family events that happen and they sometimes overlap. And the city's been doing an incredible job on Quincy 400. We're going into concerts and doing stuff at Adams Common. So many things going on this summertime here. And, I can't speak enough about all the hard work of the different volunteer groups in the city working together, as well as the DCR at the state level to, try to keep as much fun things we can during the summer months.
Yeah, it's not over yet either. Still stuff coming up all year long. So folks should check out Quincy400.com is the website.
No, absolutely. Get out there, enjoy celebrating the 400th. And then I think the next, well, a little early, but we're both going to be on vacation soon. So Chowder Fest is coming up, which is the next big event. That attracts probably 5,000 plus people out in Hell's Neck. That's, I believe, September 13th, a Saturday.
All right, very good. It's the Hell's Neck Community Council, I think, puts that on.
That is, I'm trying to remember. I think it's $5 for entry. I'm trying to remember.
Okay.
Actually, I do have the Hell's Neck bullet in front of me. Hang on. September 13th, 2 to 6 p.m., the Hell's Neck Maritime Center, the Bayview Ave Public Landing. Tickets, advance tickets are available, as well as T-shirts. They're normally $5 in the past, but I could be completely wrong. Also in front of me, since I have you and I have the bullet in front of me,
Yes.
the annual Hell's Neck Community Blood Drive is happening on the 28th from 1 to 6 p.m. in Our Lady of Good Chapel on C Street. So people are looking to help out by donating blood. Our Lady of Good Council, Our Lady of Good Council Hall on C Street on August 28th, 1 to 6 p.m.
Okay, good public service announcement. Very good.
Well, I just happened to be sitting right next to me, so I figured I just looked over. I was like, "Oh, that's right, I have it right there."
Excellent. Now then, what's going on in your work world at the State House?
Well, we had a poll go out, which that's due tomorrow. So as you guys know, I chair Committee of Consumer Protection Professional Licensure, and under the House rules, we have an expedited reporting period for bills that come out. It has to come out after the hearing, unless we ask for a very specific sequence of extension orders. So me and the staff had decided that we're going to try to meet the 60-day rule regarding bills out of committee by after the hearing as often as possible, try to reduce the number of extension orders. So we have another 21 some odd bills that was given to the committee members last week, and I got to chase down some members for their votes. But we're moving forward, and we're trying to plan our fall schedule out. We have 4 hearings set up. We did have some logistical problems on September with scheduling issues. So, we're going to do the 3 in October, 1 in September. We have a bunch of bills we have to process again by middle of September. So as we close in end of August, the staff will prep them. And when I get back from my vacation, it's right straight to it on making decisions and moving forward. So, it's no sessions, but it doesn't mean we're not working. And we're getting emails from other committees right now announcing the September schedule. So advance notice is going out to the membership as well. And of course, it'll be publicly posted, I believe 7 to 10 days on the websites. So malegislature.gov, everyone, malegislature.gov, please check it frequently. And you'll find the hearing schedule. And if you're looking for your bill, the hearing schedule be popped up on that, and you can make an online account and look through your personal account on that same website. So again, very much encourage people to track legislation that way. So it's, we got through National Conference State Legislators. I talked about NCS already a couple of times. We're still recovering from that. That very long preparation to a very short weekend, which resulted in me going from there straight to August Moon Festival.
Yes, no rest for the weary, Tacky.
No rest for the weary. And it's been, so State House is quiet, but it doesn't mean we're not working.
What do you think about the bill to ban cell phones in schools?
Yeah, it passed the Senate. I'm inclined to say yes to doing that. I'm not sure exactly why we have to pass a law, but I think this could be done district by district. Dress codes, increased security historically has been a school district decision. I don't know where it is on the pecking order of to-do list and the powers that be above me that sets the calendars. So gonna have to wait it out to the September, and then we'll see what the buzz around the building is about that. But it makes some sense. Has the support of the Attorney General, has the support of the State Senate, obviously. I've been hearing from advocacy groups, including the Superintendent's Association, asking for this. It's fairly straightforward. But again, I find it interesting how, as opposed to each individual superintendent making their own policy decisions, they decide to go to a law for uniform decision instead.
Yeah, I guess just makes it easier on the districts if they have a state law to fall back on. Quincy's already had a policy in place for several years now.
That's exactly it. And okay, guys, a little bit of an inside politics. When we do stuff to make laws, it's easier for local officials to blame us.
That's right. That's exactly right. Finger pointing at his best, right?
Welcome to Politics 101 in my world, folks. I'll give you little lessons along the way, as Joe knows, about a little bit of inside baseball, how things work. And one of the actually interesting ways inside baseball is that, well, correct, this city has its own policies regarding how to run its own school district. If parents do not like the school policy, they can always point to state law and say, hey, Tacky did this to you, and then not actually telling them that they fully support said law that Tacky voted for.
Oh, well, we don't have to add that, do we?
Oh, Lord forbid that a municipal official says, I backed it 100%. And, and I encourage my representative to vote for that. God forbid that actually happens. Never seen it ever happen in my life in 30 years in politics, by the way. Never seen it happen.
I know. But I think, politics aside, I think most education professionals agree that these devices are definitely a distraction in the classroom.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, people, are addicted to it. And it's not, I don't even have to look at a study. I think everyone who's been around teenagers and kids know, the phones are getting in their hands younger. They constantly need to be in formal mode, fear of missing out. They're in constant need for rapid communication because these days we expect people to get back to now. It is very different from when we were younger, where it was not unexpected that you would have to wait for a phone call. If you did not have an answering machine, you would have to call back more than once. And
yes.
It is
in the days of busy signals. Remember those?
Oh, yes. You couldn't get through. So either you mark it down or you try to keep a mental note that you couldn't get through, and I'll try again 10 minutes later, right? We live in an area of just rapid. And, I like to show kids the old stay-at-house wooden phone booths in the house lobby just to show them that phone booths were a real thing, much less wooden ones. But, it's kind of how the attention span works. And even I've fallen victim to it because, well, I do text friends. To be frank with you guys, 75% of my texts are work-related with the office. And the text chain helps us kind of weirdly follow a conversation with my 5 other staffers, actually 4 right now because Eric has left me to go to law school. Gets us to be able to track, okay, who said what when, so we get a little bit of a timeline of how our conversation went.
Right. It's a living document essentially, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it can be very useful for work. Well, despite my 2 thumbs or 10 thumbs punching poorly. It can be useful, but I do text friends and whatnot, but seriously, the vast majority of texts are work related.
Since last we talked, the supplemental budget bill passed, Jackie.
Yep. We did a supplemental budget, and a lot of it was predominantly bill paying. I remind folks the word supplemental budget used to be called deficiency budget when I was a young man, where it was not actually a lot of new money. It was actually moving money between accounts and money between reserve funds to pay bills. You may be aware that we do keep a little bit on the side through every budget because of things like snow removal or storm damage or things you couldn't anticipate regarding particularly New England weather that you pay for as you go along. But also transfer between accounts and what little federal money we're getting, because who knows what's going on with DC anymore. We do receive federal funds, and those are transferred as well between different accounts. And then, we sometimes get some settlements. And if we're lucky, we have a little extra surplus money that we can use to fill gaps in various bills that need to be paid. So, that was a big part of it. And then in the news, you guys are aware the bar advocates had been locked out on work. There was an increase inside this budget for them. Very unusual because it came out of conference committee that way. It was actually not in either the House or Senate proposal. So this was actually a very unusual situation. It actually does not follow conventional operational of how we handle conference committee, but given unique circumstances, House and Senate leadership decided to put a adjustment for the bar advocates in this version, as well as a committee on public service. And we also funded other collective bargaining agreements at the same time. So a little bit of an unconventional issue to address a near-term emergency.
Yeah, I don't know that they've actually gone back to work yet, though.
I'm not aware of it either. Again, I did receive some email communications, not constituents, about the bar advocacy issue. I told you more than once, we got caught off guard because no one said anything to us. The advocacy work during the past 6 months was non-existent in the State House. Whether they acknowledge that, I have no idea. I am not a court attorney. I have no idea what happens in the courthouse. It's not like I go there. I do rely on other electeds and staff or former elected and staff to tell me what happens in courthouses, whether we do talk to each other. But this conversation is most likely to continue beyond this situation now. And then we'll see how things materialize as we go along, because I don't know how it's going to materialize. And of course, they put a ballot question on there to try to unionize this group, which I find could be pretty interesting because bar advocates are independent contractors. They're actually part of other law firms or small firms, or they're independently operating businesses themselves. So they're actually W-2 employees in some situations because you're actually building a firm. So I'm not sure how that's going to work exactly. But we also did increase the CPCS account as well to hire more attorneys at that level. And there is a workforce shortage, even in the attorney world, because, well, inflation, higher wages, and competition for better pay. And that's something we've talked about many times over the past 3 years. And that has not stopped. People in government are moving more rapidly for better money in the private sector.
Yes. So yeah, we're seeing it state level, municipal level for sure.
Yeah, I don't fault people. I mean, you get a better paycheck somewhere else. You think I'm going to say no? I mean, go for it. But it can be very difficult to manage a workforce where you are unable to be competitively paid, and taxpayers do not like spending money on people.
Comes down to taxes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and given the uncertainty of the federal government and whether or not they're going to continue to pay state employees of doing federal work, whether or not infrastructure money is going to come through. We talked about the Medicaid issue, all the other programs the federal government supports. I have no idea we're going to be at the state level either. So it's going to be very complicated for state, municipal, county, as well as not-for-profits about, what's the fall going to look like, because the fiscal year for the federal government starts October 1st. And not all, but many of the changes they've made already will take full effect once they start the fiscal year.
Yeah. Speaking of the workforce, what's the unemployment situation like now in Massachusetts?
I've not looked recently. I believe it's still floating around that 4.8 zone. I haven't looked, so don't quote me on that. I've received yet an unemployment email before I got on this call with you this morning. So again, I represent about 45,000-ish people, give or take a few hundred. And we, I think, have now 11 outstanding unemployment cases and 4 resolved over the course of the last 4 weeks. Doesn't sound like a big number to you, but it's a big number to me relative to the size of my population.
Is it, I mean, you would know from historical information how it compares.
This is high. This is abnormal. And, I also send you guys a public service announcement again. The Department of Labor here at state level, the DOA office is not having the call center open on Friday. Those people have been moved to do casework on Friday instead to, move through processing people's applications more quickly. This has been one of the big problems we hear from constituents, is the speed of response on application. People don't always realize that they do check your forms. If it's incorrect, they should fill out the form. And there's also an employer component. The employer may want to dispute unemployment benefits, which then, of course, they have to go through that process as well. So it means you need a human being to do the job. And, that's a big part of what's going on, because we talk about workforce shortage. And many of those employees are paid by the federal government. And the federal government decides to yank the rug on funding or reduce funding for those employees. It's just going to compound the problem.
Right, and lengthen the process too, yeah.
That's correct. During COVID, obviously, there was a very unique situation. We had 14,000 applications in under 2 weeks come in. I mean, obviously, the office was completely impossible to handle that, when they only had 50 active employees and had to ramp up to thousands. But a lot of that money was reimbursed by the federal government because it's a federal program.
Right, yeah, not the case this time around.
No, this is the opposite. This is them cutting and slashing programs. And you guys heard me say over and again the words cost shift. And I truly believe that's what's going to happen. They're going to cost shift back onto cities, city and towns, counties, and the state and not-for-profits by pulling back their funding and saying, okay, it's a federal program, go comply, you're on your own.
Right. Yeah. As I said before, I think formulating the next fiscal year's budget is going to be a real challenge.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, municipalities should have already been this spring, given the number of different news things coming out of DC. They should have already been preparing. And you guys already know the state, was $1 billion short, almost 800 million short of the governor's recommendation. And the governor also cut it 130. And I've got wind from some folks that secretariats in the process of with basically cutting, withholding even more of their own budgets to create another stockpile. So hiring freeze, again, workforce problem. We can't compete with the private sector right now because they're paying better, but also a workforce freeze. So, we're getting ready for the impact. Whether municipalities are, well, you interviewed the guys at the local level, so you can tell me.
Right. Yeah. Some are, some aren't. That's about what it comes down to. A lot of them don't want to face it because it involves some painful decisions in terms of maybe making some cuts.
Well, one of the interesting things about politics, right? People don't always know exactly, the levels of politics. I get often mistaken for a congressman. Obviously, I'm not a congressman, but people don't always know the different layers of government. Not unusual. You actually have a lot of city council candidates this year, as well as school committee candidates, should be aware regarding federal impacts on an office they like to run for and take responsibility representing our constituents. I don't think it should be a central part of their campaigns, but I do think it's something they should be able to talk a little bit about and how they think the municipal government should manage federal cuts on programs that affect a lot of our social services here, not necessarily just at the city level, but also a lot of local not-for-profits.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Hey, speaking of ballot initiatives, I read like 14 of them are swirling around now, looking to get approved, and some of them have, some of them haven't. One of them is regarding the cannabis industry.
Yeah, I think it's like 47 questions.
Is it really that many? Wow.
Yeah, getting a question isn't hard. Getting it certified into signatures is the other problem.
Right.
So you're asking me to try to remember a question out of 47. Thank you, Joe.
That's what I do best, Tacky.
What does this question do, Joe?
I believe it has to do with regulating the amount of THC in cannabis, or words to that effect.
The Cannabis Control Commission has enormous discretion regarding how to ensure proper testing and health standards regarding cannabis. We talked before about THC drinks and how this kind of wild west, and the House proposal and bills in my committee on the House Cannabis Reform Commission reform bill, addresses that as well regarding THC drinks. Is one increase the dosage of?
No, to cap it basically.
On the THC number, I mean, we'll see how it plays out. One of the challenges I think on ballot questions is explain to the public in the simplest way possible, which a ballot question does. The accuracy of your description, there's no law that says you actually have to be accurate, by the way, when you're promoting your stuff, just to let you know. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I really don't have a good answer for you about, capping your THC. I mean, I think the commission has enormous discretion to do it to begin with. But as we talked about many times, the commission is a mess. And to be honest with you, they should not be doing anything right now than dealing with the fact that the state auditor just ripped them in half and getting the house in order because they know the House is going to blow them up because we've passed a bill to do it. And I don't know where the Senate is, but it's amazingly how tone deaf that group is at the Cannabis Commission to understand the situation they're currently in.
Yeah, I know is there an effort to bring it under the executive branch, basically?
Yeah, that's a House proposal.
Yeah.
I mean, move them into the governor's branch and reform the commission to make them part-time, make the chair full-time, and then have a clearer chain of command who actually runs the place. It's like a hydra over there. Different heads trying to run the agency. And, they're trying to move regulations on cannabis cafes. I'm like, are you people out of your minds? I mean, you're literally under siege and you decide it's a good idea to put up more regulations right now. I mean, none of us trust you, government.
Yeah. How was it formed initially? How were they appointed?
There are multiple person appointments, but it's predominantly under treasurer operations because that's what it
Okay.
comes out of. Um, and there's a lot of it's kind of modeled after the casino commission, the
Oh,
game,
right. Yes. Yeah.
but the model doesn't work here. And it's not modeled. It should be a little bit more like the ABCC in some ways.
Right. Yes.
But given the Hydra situation over there, we actually have to, in the House version, actually dictate the pecking order, like actually talk about the chain of command, which is very
Hmm.
important for us.
Yeah. Maybe look at some states that have been doing it for longer than we have.
Well, historically, we like to not get into the weeds by statute. We expect professionals and grown-ups to be professionals and grown-ups, but clearly this is not the case.
A little hand holding might be necessary. Yes.
It is not my recommendation on how to write bills. In
Right.
this instance, it's going to have to happen. And, you guys are very clear, really hearing from me on more than one show now how much I think this thing's a complete mess. And I think they should really just not do new things. They should just work on their current problems. There is actually no signal to the public to create confidence that they are taking seriously what's going on around. I mean, they're literally like, I never seen one this deaf. I mean, it's not like it hasn't been in the news. I mean, the speaker himself last year went to a public hearing himself. Having the speaker at a public hearing before a committee is extraordinarily rare, like four-leaf clover rare. I mean, that's really a signal that we're coming for you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Stay tuned for that. We'll see how that see how that pans out. I want to talk about some national stuff. We haven't delved down that road in a while.
No, we haven't. It's been a lot of stuff going on in the last month. As we do continue to have a president who believes that, by sheer force of himself in the United States, that he can make the world tremble and move. Yeah, he has. And no, he hasn't, depending on what we're talking about. And, he still continues to make history. And despite, what people think of his ego and, like, oh, he wants a Nobel Prize, but he was talking about stuff like that. I mean, ultimately, though, whether his personal desires of a prize is not relevant relative to try to accomplish goals that he has set on himself forward. It makes a lot of commentary that people kind of latch onto ridiculously on it sometimes and kind of overshadows the fact that he does want to get certain things done. Whether he's successful or not is not the point. It's that he does have an agenda to get things done. And whether you like it or I like it is not relevant because he's going to do it. And that's just how it's going to go. So, I try to be fair about this stuff, right? As you guys over for 80 years, I will beat the crap out of him. I think it's not good. And I'll try to, be fair and sing praises if I think it makes sense. Or just be, I'm not sure. Just say I'm not sure, right? So you got a lot happening, right? You got CPI came out a little cooler, it's 2.7, but PCE, which does not include fuel and housing, which are very volatile, so personal consumption. PCE is personal consumption. CPI is consumer price index. PCE, I can't remember what the E stands for right now, but it doesn't matter. It's I came at over 3%, over 3%. So this is actually a disconnect. So you have when you include housing and fuel, consumer price index CPI goes down a little bit, but when you take those two out, the core inflation goes up, which means that fuel and housing prices on a national level, not in Massachusetts, on a national level has descended, but everything else has spiked up on our essential things we use every day. So, there's that factor. And then I said many months ago that I expected tariff impact to hit sooner because I would expect wholesalers to prepare to pay the tariff sooner than later. That didn't happen. And I think I figured out the problem. The problem is that uncertainty. Retailers are not going to charge you more money until they know how much they have to charge you more money, not anticipating what they're going to charge you because it hasn't been set in stone. The retailers start charging you more, and your competitor does not increase the price, it only hurts that retailer. So with the lack of certainty, it was difficult for businesses to front load tariffs against you back in April. And because the numbers were always inconsistent and not sure exactly how to make sense sometimes, but inconsistent, it's hard for business to anticipate costs, which is hard to pass the cost, because if one passes the cost and the other one does it, it puts them in a competitive disadvantage.
Right. Yeah. People shop around for sure for the lowest price. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what's going on here is that, there's a lot of hesitation now as tariffs become more permanentized. I mean, we will know what it is. It won't happen to the next shipment of goods coming into the United States. So if you're like a Walmart, you're constantly getting stuff. If you're a smaller business, you're probably expecting a shipment every couple of months. So it varies from size of business. It's not a universal rule that all fit the same. So depending on your business size, it depends on your shipments. So right now, whatever you have in inventory was probably not tariffed at a high rate or tariffed at all, depending on when you received the goods. So the price reflects that. But the next set, whenever that should be, is going to reflect whatever these tariffs are. If it is a permanent one, by the way, I have no idea anymore. I can't track this anymore on what's happening. They'll have that impact on the prices to consumers. So while the White House is talking about, oh, we don't affect anything, it's been great, consumers can absorb this cost. We actually don't know, because of the fact that not all businesses get their inventory at the same time.
Right.
So moving to seasonal. So now we're moving into the fall, and I presume a lot of people bought their stuff. The businesses bought their stuff in the summer, preparing for the fall. And the tariff rate was different then. And then, once we get into the fall, they're going to start buying this stuff for the winter. And then, the tariffs may or may not affect you. It's a little, again, the number keeps moving. He keeps changing his mind. Negotiation keeps going on. And it's difficult for businesses to make decisions in an uncertain world on what to charge a customer.
Yeah, and retailers are always at least a season ahead, if not 2 seasons ahead, in terms of purchasing. So, yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. And they're tightening the belts, because while there is a workforce shortage, it's not more jobs than people working. If you're in a smaller business scale, you're not hiring new people right now. Too much.
Right. Yeah, that was reflected in the jobs numbers not too long ago. Yeah.
Yeah, the revision's not surprising. I think, one of the things that people realize is that there's always lagging indicators in all data. So, for example, people, get initial unemployment claims are pretty easy. That's that week. The actual people on unemployment may take about a month to get the final data for a month's worth of data, because you wait for a month after the month ended. So, for example, we want something in July, you really get better data in August, because the numbers will be finalized by then, the real numbers. But a lot of the unemployment rate numbers are based on surveys. And it's a number of different businesses of various sizes around the country reporting back. But if they don't report back their surveys timely, you have to do the best statistical analysis on the data that's provided, which may not be accurate, may not reflect the actual number at the time of.
Right.
So I get the whole Bureau of Labor Statistics, and you're sitting around, wow, you do such a bad job, you should get fired. But do you all know what the job actually entails? And it entails a combination of real data that's 2 months old, but also largely dependent on corporations and small businesses, depending on the sampling size, to report back to unemployment numbers to get a broad enough calculation for statisticians, guys who do statistics, to put together the best estimate on what the current outlook looks like, until the real number comes in 2 months later.
So yeah, then they revise them, right? Yeah,
that's what the revision's for. It's like reconciliation on your checking accounts. Similar idea. You do. Sometimes you guys can be really good and make sure you mark your book up every time, or you have Quicken or something, and some people don't. And when I did utility work before smart meters, and let's not go down that path about people in smart meters, but smart meters, may give you more accurate calculation of electric bill. The same thing you have on your water meter now. Quincy water meters are a type of smart meter to give you a more accurate count. They used to actually charge you based on past usage and estimate what you're going to pay. Then about 2 months later, or in the case of a utility company, it can be up to 2 years later, they will reconcile those real numbers against their estimates and then adjust your rate on what you're going to pay. In the case of water bills, in the past, you will get a different bill in the next quarter to reflect the real number against your estimate. And then in utility world, it could be a year or 2 years against all customers, where they give us the real number. And then you look at the estimate, and you're going to charge customers more or charge you less based on the reconciliation. So this is not like a novelty to everyone. People think it's like, oh, it's new. It's like, no, it's not. It's actually quite a common practice in many places.
Right. Yeah. It's just trying to, balance things out as you get more information.
That's correct. It's not, people think it's like uncommon. It's actually not uncommon. It really is sector specific. So I just named two things that is quite common in your lives. One is utility bills, and the other one is your water bill. And you may recall, some of you have heard stories about people who got big water bill changes when the smart meters went into their homes, because since they had a more accurate number against the prior estimates, the city was really off in their estimates, and unfortunately, that homeowner got smacked with a giant bill.
Right. Then had to maybe work out a payment plan or something if it was too big for sure. I didn't hear many credits going back to people.
No, there were really not a lot of credits. You can check out the water department. I'm doubtful there's a lot of credits.
Yeah.
But that being said, it shows you I'm old, people. I remember these things. And this is actually important too. I tell people institutional knowledge is very important because you remember these things that I talk about here with you. It helps put things in context. That some of these things that we see in the news actually does happen in your real life, but it may have happened in the past, but because of new techniques and technology, it doesn't happen anymore, or it doesn't happen as often.
Right. Yeah. So, not to think that it's something brand new out of the blue. It's just been a while, maybe since one person's lifetime if they're in their 20s or 30s.
Oh yeah, some young folks has never experienced this, which
Right.
again makes us feel really old. It's like trying to explain what a carburetor is.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
true.
but switching to cars quickly, very rarely you hear a car accident due to a car defect. Modern technology has more reporting data. Your car knows a lot about, but not everything. A lot of things about how you drive and the condition of the car that's transmitted back to manufacturers. And if they get a lot of cars saying we got problems, they'll do the investigation. Recalls happen before actually anyone gets hurt.
Right. Yeah.
You remember, and I remember, car defects happen. People died.
No, yes, I'm thinking of the early Ford products with the gas tank issues, and I mean many examples of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a real thing when we were young, and now it's not because of better safety.
Hmm. Yep.
Also, intrusion of privacy, but
That's another show.
we talked a lot about that already regarding right to
Yeah, we
repair.
did with the right to repair. That's right. Another national issue that's kind of fascinating to watch is this whole battle over redistricting the congressional maps.
Yeah, I mean, did it come assemblymen or state representatives? I can't remember in Texas, but the Democrats came up here, apportioned Massachusetts, and held a Sandals protest. Historically speaking, everyone, when legislatures try to pull this stunt, it never works.
Mm.
Ever. We did this. This happened in Wisconsin some almost 20 years back. Texas has done this more than once. I've never seen this trick ever work anywhere, period.
Because it has to end somewhere.
That's correct. And it never works. I mean, it's a great headline story. It brings attention to the matter, but the attention was already brought to the matter. And while it does create more sensational stories and all these crazy threats between government officials, which I find professionally very disturbing that people like to do that and find it like acceptable for some reason. We're professionals, people behave like it. It doesn't work.
Mm.
So every state's different. By constitution, we just dictate the lines. Every law is different of how they do it, and every state can change the laws pursuant to whatever their laws say or the Constitution says of how they do it in their state. So can they do it legally? I presume so. Does it start this kind of midterm election battle over redistricting in many states? Maybe, because it breaks traditional norms. I can't recall ever seeing these wholesale changes on redistricting before the new census puts out. But there's also a numbers problem because the most populous states that isn't Florida and Texas tend to be states along the water, which tends to be Democratic states.
Mm. California comes to mind.
New York comes to mind.
Yeah.
New Jersey comes to mind, right? Virginia is a mixed state right now between Democrats and Republicans, right? You go to places like Michigan, which is a mixed state between Democrats and Republicans. So since it is equitable in the sense that the population of the country subdivides out the congressional districts, well, states gain or lose congressional districts. There is a degree of professional courtesy where in many states, sitting Congress people, as well as state senators and state representatives or assemblymen, depending where you are, there's a degree of professional courtesy about, not screwing over a sitting elected. You think I'm joking? It's true.
No, I believe you. Yeah.
Unless you're like a complete jerk, more times than not, state legislatures, as a professional courtesy and local politics to keep the peace, are not inclined to totally screw people. Seriously. They generally go after the ones that are complete jerks to everybody because no one's going to protect the jerk.
Right.
So this actually breaks a degree of professional norm in all states where there's this kind of courtesy here, not to stick it to people. And but that's gone out the window because again, people can't behave like professionals. But I mean, also keep in mind that the densest states are the ones that are along the coastline, which tends to be Democratic states.
Mm.
And if they're going to stop playing games in places like Florida, Ohio, West Virginia, I don't think they can do anything in West Virginia. But places like that, and Texas obviously is a monster-sized state. You still got like Washington, New York, New Jersey, the entire Washington State, Oregon. You can play around in Michigan. People can stop playing these little games all over the place because it'll be responsive. When one moves, the other one's going to move. So it's a game of responding. So, and also don't forget, legislature is different in the country. We're a full-time legislature.
Yes.
The vast majority of legislatures are part-time.
Yeah.
So either have a recall method like they do in Texas, where they only work like 4 months every 2 years, by the way, the legislature. Super powerful governor. They may not be able to respond depending what state you're in because some states cannot come back once they adjourn.
Right. So it would be up to the governor of that state. Yeah.
If there is a provision in the Constitution.
Oh, right. Or would have to wait, basically.
Yeah. So this is not as simple as it looks because you have to take into account that all 50 states have different operational methods, 50 constitutions, 50 state laws, 50 different states, of which I believe only 45 of them are all part-time, 50 of them are full-time. And it becomes a tit for tat. So like, for example, you could do a massive redistricting in the spring. Let's say you have a state that doesn't come back, the legislature doesn't come back in the spring, and they come back, and then in the spring, they decide to just totally rip up the congressional map in a short period of time and start respond to other states respond. This thing is ridiculous on so many levels. I mean, states historically do not sit around, look at a state next door and say, I'm going to do this. This is an internal state function regarding local politics and how they're going to manage something.
Right.
So this is like crazy. And from my personal perspective, right? I mean, and again, unless your law or constitution says something different, I mean, legally speaking, every state can do what they want unless there's something prevents it, the constitutional level inside their state. But hey, I mean, we're living in strange times. I mean, that's what me and John Keenan keep talking about. We're living in strange times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, typically you'd wait for the next federal census, right? In 2030.
That's right. And then you go through this whole process again, and then we'll watch where the population shifts.
Right.
In other tricky states like Colorado, for example, that state's gone both Democrat, Republican multiple times. And it's actually a growing state in congressional districts. I mean, isn't it a state that, depending on, how this election goes, going into next election on their state legislatures, there's nothing that says they can't mess around with it. If let's say in 2027, the legislature goes a different party and they decide in 2027 to completely mess up the congressional map then.
Right.
To prepare for a 28 election for Congress. Or they change the map around to mess with themselves. Which means they mess around with the state legislative maps, which then creates all kinds of political discord among themselves because, again, the professionalism goes out the window.
Right. Yes. Wow. It's fascinating to watch. I'll say that.
Well, they got term limit states. So Colorado's a term limit state. Maine is a term limit state. So you may not have professional relationships with your colleagues, and you don't care if they're dead or alive. That's also a factor to consider.
Talk about it. Yeah, you're right. Uncertain times.
Yeah. Again, this is my point of view as a guy that was a state as I'm a state legislative guy, right? I'm a legislature, very pro powerful legislative mentality, right? I don't ever like watching any legislature give a power to the executive branch. That's why I'm very disappointed in Congress. I always believe self-preservation of your seats, regarding delivering for people at home, should encourage you to keep all power in the legislature, despite whatever the party of the president is. It should not matter. You should try to protect the integrity of the legislature. But that's just me.
Yep. Well, as we mentioned earlier, we're both going on vacation soon.
Yeah, I hope you have a relaxing time, Joe. I've been no joke working through weekends, cleaning my plate off, but not just necessarily state house stuff. You guys know I practice little law. I'm trying to clean that off my plate. I'm trying to get my stuff ready at home. My brother has his to-do list for my mom. As you guys are aware, my mom has health issues. So, I'm comfortable enough I can go away. She's in, thankfully stable position. I can go away. But, I made sure my, phone service is 100% usable wherever I am. And put contingencies in place, and hopefully I don't have to come back early, but contingency in place if something happens at home. So yeah, it's a lot of prepping in my situation, not necessarily just professionally, but also very much on a personal level.
Absolutely. So I wish you a relaxing time, and we will catch up after Labor Day now. Wow.
Yeah, we can talk about the post preliminary. Oh, by the way, everyone remember, you can get your mail-in ballot still. I got mine in like 3 days. So very much encourage your mail-in ballots. Early voting starts Saturday. So there's plenty of time to vote in this preliminary. There isn't a large race. Again, I encourage everyone to vote. Please do vote. You got a ton of time, ton of ways to vote, and make sure your voice is heard, even in a preliminary race, which is in Ward 6 and at large for everyone that isn't in Ward 6.
That's right.
Yeah, there isn't a large preliminary. So
yes, there is. There's 8 candidates actually for the 3 at-large seats. So yeah.
Yeah, so very much encourage everyone to get out there. And my office is open, 617-722-2370, 617-722-2370. My staff is there. I hopefully will not check my email too much, but I do have email at tackey.chan@mhouse.gov, tackey@mhouse.gov. Obviously, got emergency, call the office rather than email. We got an emergency on a constituent matter. Constituents issues come first. I do see your testimonies. I do see your ask for bills. We do log into our system, so we are aware of it. And I promise I'll try not to read too much email, guys. I'm going to try. But my staff does have access to reading my email as well, so it's not like it's unattended. State Representative Tackey Chan Facebook, you can watch my coloration change in the sun over the course of pictures from August Moon Festival. And then we have actually Instagram, which is Tackey_Chan. Yeah, I didn't realize it was that simple. So you can follow Facebook to my Instagram, which we're still working on getting more things into Instagram. We're basically abandoning our @TackeyChan at X in terms of as a primary media source. TackeyChan.org is a contact page. Look for phone numbers there before you call us. It may speed up your information gathering. MALegislature.gov, talked about earlier. Definitely visit that page often. We have QATV here with Joe. Obviously, you can watch our past shows, but Joe's interviewing local candidates, and they'll have the public service announcements already out there. So if you want to learn about your local candidates in the 3-minute pitch, definitely turn on QATV on the radio and YouTube, and obviously on your cable station.
Absolutely. We're all doing our best to keep people informed. Thanks so much, Tackey.
Thank you, Joe. See you in next month.